Hey BookTube, how are you guys today? Today I'll be reviewing The Children's Blizzard by David Laskin. It's a nonfiction book. The subject of it is a snowstorm that took place in 1888 in the United States, mostly contained in the Midwest, which includes the Dakotas, Minnesota, certain parts of Texas, and Nebraska. The reason it's called the Children's Blizzard is because a lot of children at the time, basically before the blizzard hit, it was pretty bad out, and it started to get better. The temperature started to rise, the sun was out more, and basically since it was the first nice day in a while, a lot of people went back to school. A lot of people went to work on farms and to do other business that the weather beforehand prevented. And then the blizzard hit, and it was pretty much without sudden. A lot of children died or passed away, as well as adults, if not during the blizzard because they got caught in it, because visibility was very minuscule. They later died of diseases such as gangrene, due to having amputations of their appendages because they just got caught in the storm and things went south from there. This book talks a lot about how the National Weather Service worked back then. It was called something else in the book, but I can't quite recall exactly what it is. It's like the signaling service or something of that nature. And basically, it just talks about what led to it, how they predicted, and also it gives a lot of personal tales of people who lived during that time, who either survived or who didn't. It talked about, like heroines of it, basically girls who were survived and they became like either had state or national recognition. And a lot of people would send them money and supported their cause because they either helped a lot of people, like there was one where a school teacher helped these children, and basically the children survived, and she was a poor schoolhouse teacher, single schoolhouse teacher, and the people would send her money and everything else to help, and also an orphan was caught in the storm as well. And it was basically called for national attention. And that's pretty much it. It took me a long time to finish this book, honestly. It really did. It wasn't a bad book. It was interesting. You learned a lot about biology. It had a little everything, like history, science. A couple of things I remember that I found were pretty interesting. It was like after a certain degree, and your body can't tell the difference of it getting any colder. You learn some about like cold weather-related illnesses, such as you start after your body drops like 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not too sure what it is at the moment in Celsius, because I live in America and they don't teach the Celsius or any of the metric system very much, which probably be more helpful if they did, but I haven't learned it as of yet, so I do apologize. But after your body hits 80 degrees or below 90 degrees Fahrenheit, you start to feel hot. Kind of like when your temperature rises, you start to feel cold, so you try to cover up. The reverse happens when your body gets too cold. You start to feel hot, and you start stripping or taking off all your clothes because you're really overheated, or you feel like you're overheated, and you become a little delusional. And a lot of people during this time thought they were sexual assault victims or something when they would find them basically dead out in the wilderness or outside and all their clothes have been taken off, but it turns out It's more of a mental disorder that comes with being with hypothermia that takes place and not due to crimes of man-on-man nature. It also talks a lot about how the military and the government was starting to start the weather service and how there was a lot of errors into getting information out there and stuff like that. The personal stories are interesting, but after a while it does kind of blend in together. Like, they give the names and places, but there's not and you do feel bad for the people who lived through this, and it wouldn't be something I would ever want to go through. But after a while, the stories do tend to blend all together, and it took me, I don't know if I said this before, but it did take me quite a while to finish this novel, or this book, since it's not fiction. Would I recommend it? Maybe, if you really like history or the weather service, or if you're especially interested in the history of the Midwest of the United States. It's a very interesting read. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it either. It's kind of a dry novel a little bit, but once I start something, I have to finish it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, if you don't like a book, just put it down. My OCD won't allow that. I have to finish it, whether I really love the novel or not. But I did finish it, and I did learn some interesting things, interesting facts, and so forth. It tends to run together after a little while, and it seems like, even though it talks about different situations and different people, all the stories kind of just blend in together. Even now, I can barely remember the names of any of the people who were affected, or anything of that nature. But it is a good story, and it is a piece of American history, and I usually tend to like a little history, and I feel like I didn't know there was a huge snowstorm that affected all these places back in 1888, and I feel more educated about the subject now. And one quick fact that besides the hypothermia, where you strip your clothes if you get too cold, another thing I've learned that was kind of interesting was especially because it did affect New York as well, but the book didn't talk too much about the East Coast. But that's how they started burying telephone lines during this time instead of leaving them all outside all the time, because a lot of them were damaged or destroyed property, and that's how a lot of cords and power cords started to be buried underground, which is something I did not know beforehand, and it's a very interesting little fact. So, yeah, if you really like American history, or you're very interested in weather, I would recommend this novel. If not, maybe I would probably pass on it if you're not interested in either of those, very full-heartedly. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the review. The next I usually try to read one nonfiction with all the fiction I do read, and I actually just picked this up on the Kindle today. I'm not one, I'm trying to pull it up now, and that is Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House by Michael Wolff. I know this book's been talked about a lot on the news. I know with current state of affairs, a lot of you, especially from the White House, are very distraught by this book. I know Trump is trying to sue the lawyer or trying to sue the author of this book and everything else. And I'm interested when it says, honestly, I lean left politically. I'm not a fan of Trump, not at all. But it is what it is, and Usually I don't read political novels, but this one really caught my interest, and I feel like it would give me a lot of insights into the current state of affairs. And I don't know. I'm just interested in reading the novel. I'll probably do a review on it pretty soon. I'm usually wait for a little bit after I buy a book to read it, but since it is about current events and everything, I feel like the faster I read it, the better it will be, because it's not something you can read like 5 years from now, because there'd be too many things that have changed since then. So, yeah, that's my review, and that's what I'm going to be reading next for my nonfiction side. I thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you have a good day. Bye, guys.